Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of You Have to Wear Something Because You Do. It's another wonderful evening and another great guest I'm so lucky to have. Her name is Ciara Chyanne, and she is an LA based designer, ready to wear designer, and she's actually from here. Isn't that right, Ciara? Welcome to the show.
Yes, I'm from Los Angeles. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. Yes, I'm a LA native, born and raised in Watts. So, yeah.
I know. I am from Chicago, but I've been in LA for 14 years. So
Mhm.
I feel like this is home. I think, as you know, from living in different places, the creative hubs are like New York, LA, and lately Miami as well. But you have to be in certain cities for fashion to work. So take us through the journey of becoming, a designer. I know you were on the what's it called? The cut?
Making the cut. Yeah.
Making the cut. Yeah, I want to talk about a reality show experience because that's interesting to me. But take us back to, you being self-taught and a little bit of your story.
Yeah, so I've always loved fashion since I was a little girl. So that's always been a passion of mine since I was young. I think I was like 5 or 6, and I remember like my mom actually just sent me a text the other day, and it was like a meme on Instagram, and she was like, "This is you when you were young." She would literally like lay my outfits out for school, and I would be like, "I'm not wearing that," and I would literally like change up everything and be like, "I'm wearing this pant with this top with these socks," and she'd be like, "That doesn't even no, we're not doing that." So I started really young. I actually started like sketching dresses at 6. And then at 15, I designed my very first dress. I was actually a junior in high school, I believe, and it was like a homecoming. And I remember seeing this picture of Rihanna in Vogue magazine, and I got some inspiration, like tore out the picture, and I started sketching. And I sourced some fabric from the store at the FITM Institute. A lot of people don't know this, but FITM has like a store on campus where they like upcycle fabrics and materials, and you can go in there and like buy materials for very cheap. And I saw this like fuchsia pink cheetah print fabric, and it had sequin on it, and I was like, that's it. So I bought the fabric, and I worked with a seamstress and like told her my ideas and showed her the sketches that I had designed. And yeah, I wore that dress. It had like a hood on it, like lined in velvet. And I remember like coming to homecoming, and all my friends had went like downtown to buy dresses, and they were like, "Girl, like you are doing the most." Like, and
Very
I
Brent
had
Stones of you to wear the hood. That's what
right, and
that
then
reminds me of.
yeah, and I had like these thigh high velvet tie boots, and I really thought I was Rihanna. Like I was trying to embody Rihanna, and I had like a super cute, edgy, short haircut that was like dyed like raspberry, and it was just over the top. So that has like always been my thing. But I kind of like when I got to like a senior in high school, I told my mom, like, this was a passion of mine. I wanted to go into fashion. And I always thought I wanted to be a stylist. But as I started like interning for different stylists, I was like, I don't really know if I want to be a stylist. I think I really want to be a designer. So I started a fashion club, and on lunch break, like I would invite people to come like join me in a classroom, and we would just talk about fashion and like do different fashion projects. And then when I graduated from high school, I told my mom like I was super serious about going to fashion school, and she didn't necessarily support it. She didn't think it was like a lucrative career, and she really wanted me to get like a substantial degree. So I was like, okay, well, I'm still gonna like go about it. I remember setting up a meeting with the counselor at FITM, and my mom was like, okay, I'll go with you, but you're not going to fashion school. And I remember like coming into the meeting, and we sat down, and my mom like pulls this stack of papers out of her purse, and I'm like, what is that? And she's like,
Yeah.
well, I did research, and statistically proven, like this percent of students only graduate with an AA, and they don't even get good jobs in the industry. And she starts like laying all these Google facts out. And I just remember like crying, and I was like, you know what? Forget it. I'm over it now.
Yeah.
um,
I know what that's like because they want you to, I'm raised by boomers and, I'm aging myself right now, but they just want you, it's really to protect you and support you.
mhm.
Because a creative career, they just, we just don't know what that trajectory is like. We never had those opportunities in the past, right? So we don't really know what that blueprint looks like. And so it's really like a protection thing. But I hear you. I'm like, I wanted to be a creative too. And I was encouraged to go to college prep and science and math. And I did all of that. But like, I understand about that calling and like, you've got to do it when it's inside of you, you know?
Right, right, exactly. So I started applying for HBCs, and I got accepted into some historically black colleges like Hampton and Howard. And then I got accepted into Tuskegee University. Tuskegee University gave me the most money. So that was kind of
That's
how I made my
what's up.
decision. Um,
Yes.
and then also a guy I was dating at the time that I actually went to prom with, he like kind of convinced my mom that it was an amazing school. And I was like, okay, I guess like I'll go. And then I went to Tuskegee. I remember like arriving and seeing like sheep and cow across the road, and I was like, it is so country here. Like I'm a city girl.
So different from LA. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm a city girl too, but
Yeah.
yeah, you really see it in the South. Like, oh, okay, like we come from like rural areas, agriculture,
Hmm.
originally before we, migrated north. But yeah,
Right.
you kind of went back a little bit. So you were
Yeah.
schools, you were like, but did you have a good experience?
Yeah, Tuskegee was an amazing experience. I actually contribute a lot of my business success to Tuskegee,
Okay.
because I majored in business actually. So my degree is in sales and marketing. So I learned a lot at Tuskegee about like just basically business acumen and like how to navigate and build my brand.
Yeah, no, I think I don't know. I think of just like Seth Godin. I've read so many like sales and marketing books. I'm like an OG salesperson. I've sold everything. I always say this when I interview people, but like I've sold literally everything: cars and clothes and furs and diamonds and all of that. And I actually moved to LA to be a stylist, and I feel you on that. Like people weren't paying me, and I was schlepping clothes everywhere, and I had to go back to sales, and sales was my bread and butter. And they say that Seth Godin says every company is a marketing company. It doesn't really matter like the widget, the thing you're selling.
Hmm.
So if you know sales and marketing first, that definitely kind of sets you up, for success in the future.
Right, because if you think about it, like there's a million creatives in the world.
Yeah.
But if you can't sell a product, if you can't market a product, if you can't tell a story, why would someone want to support it? You know what I mean? And that's something that I like learned in school is that it's beyond the service and it's beyond the product.
Yeah, no, it really truly is. So, you got committed, you got your business acumen, and then you did what next after you graduated? Did you come back to LA? What
Well, actually, at Tuskegee is kind of where I got my entrepreneurial start.
got it?
So I learned, okay, so let me just rewind a little bit because I feel like there's so many parts of my story that I always skip, and this is like pertinent in my story.
Yeah.
So I couldn't afford tuition one semester, and I ended up dropping out of school and moving back to LA.
Mm,
And while I was back in LA, I started working in retail at Ross. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got to get out of here. Like, this
you
is
really
not it.
do. Yes.
It was just traumatic for me. Like, it was so traumatic. But I had to, save up money so that I could go back to school. But while I was at Ross working, I told my dad, like, I found some like extended course classes at Otis College of Art and Design. And
Mhm.
so I took my first sewing class there. And I think it was like maybe 2 months. And then I took like a sketching design class. And they're the courses you just pay like $200-300 really quick. It's not like for credit or like an
Yeah.
actual certificate or anything like that. So, um, and what I did was I would research like the curriculum at FIDM and like see what books they were using to study design and
Yeah.
kind of like just like create my own course. Like I would just put things together and get on YouTube and be like, okay, like I want to be a designer, so I'm gonna like kind of learn. my own, like I created my own design institution in a way, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's
Um,
self-taught, self-made. Like that's what they do. That's, that's the way you go.
yeah. So after I saved up some money, I went back to Tuskegee and then I ended up like graduating from there. But I remember my senior year is when I started like sewing in my dorm room.
Mm,
Sewing in my dorm room, and then I moved to an apartment in Auburn, and I would make t-shirts and dresses, and then I would go out on the yard on Wednesdays. It was called like Fried Chicken Wednesdays. It's like a HBC thing.
yeah,
Where we have like soul food. But I would set up a rack outside of the cafeteria, and when people would come out during lunch, they would be like, oh, like, what is this? And I would tell them about my business, and I would sell things to them, and I would make like on average a few $100s on lunchtime. And I was like, wow, like if I'm making money like this on like one day a week on a Wednesday, like I think I have something here. So
yeah.
that's kind of how I got my start.
I know what it's like when you get like your first sale, or like you have a feeling like you're like boosted. It's like the battery in your back when you like start selling, you sell a little bit more. I know all about that feeling. That first win is everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you have proof of concept on the yard, and were people like asking you to make dresses for them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're getting requests.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So like during homecoming and things like that, like people would come to me and say, hey, can you make me a custom dress? And then I was like making these clutch bags. I was just kind of making everything. And then I remember it was spring break, and everybody usually goes to like Miami or you just somewhere in Florida at the beach. And I
Yeah.
was like, you know what? I actually am going to go back home. I did some research and found where the wholesale district was in the fashion industry.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to start an online boutique. So I started an online boutique called W4 Clothing. And during spring break, I went down there and spent probably like $1,200 on merchandise. And then I shipped everything back to Tuskegee and started selling it. So but shortly later I was like, this is amazing, but then I would like get on Instagram and like be a little discouraged because I would see other people selling the same pieces I had at their boutique.
Mhm.
So I was like, yeah, I think I want to stick with like designing cut and sew from scratch, because like selling a product that other girls are selling on their store, it just you don't really, it's like you have to differentiate yourself and you have to sell it different because it's the same, and then you're competing because of the price, and you're like, oh, they're selling it for $50, I have to sell it for 45. Like it's a lot into it. So I was like, yeah, I don't too much want to do the wholesale thing.
Yeah, no, it is tough to. I mean, I have an online store. It's called Shop GU. It's a shameless plug, but yeah, I think you definitely have to train your client. Like, there's a lot of promo driven businesses, and then there's businesses that aren't promo driven, and it's really tough to build a business like never have sales, never have markdowns, never have clearance. That's like really tough to do. And you definitely, if they know you're always on sale, they expect that cheaper price,
Mm-hmm.
and so it is tough to keep up with. But when you're making something that only you can make and your own unique design, then it's a little bit more like D2C, and they can only get Ciara Chyanne from Ciara Chyanne. So
Right.
a better
Right.
like model. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they were you were saying like I can't compete, I want to do my own thing. And then what was next for you?
Yeah, so after I graduated from Tuskegee and I came back home, I was just really trying to figure out how to break into the industry. And at the time, I was actually back in styling, assisting a celebrity stylist who works with a lot of NBA and NFL clients. And I had a couple of situations where I was like, see, this is why I told myself I didn't want to do this.
There's always a
Um,
situation.
Right. And so then I started applying for different jobs, and I was working as a product stylist. I was working at Nordstrom Rack Holt Look as a product stylist, and then I transferred to Amazon. They had a like photo studio, and I started working there as a product stylist. And when I was there, I met a couple of people, my coworkers, who were also fashion designers, and I was like, oh, okay, so it's like a community of us, like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, we all work here for a 9 to 5 to get an income, but we are all, fashion designers.
Yeah.
And one of them had plugged me in with their manufacturer in New York. And he was like, hey, do you want to go with me to New York? Like, I'm going for Fashion Week in February. So I took a flight with him out there and I met the manufacturer. And I had a sketchbook just filled with designs, but I've never brought them to life. And so I was like, this is the perfect time. So I got to New York, started sourcing fabrics, and then I, asked them to make some samples, and that's how I designed my first collection, which was in 2017.
Okay. Um, so now you're getting closer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're at Amazon, you have a community, you are seeing more of what's possible. You're making a trip to New York, which is still the fashion capital of America. And now you're producing.
Mm-hmm.
I learned a little bit about you, and I think right after this is when you kind of get wind of the potential of making the cut. But I don't want to skip to that. Tell me what's going on next right after that.
Okay, so yeah, actually, I realized I was like, hey, like, I think New York is a little bit expensive. And I'm
Yes,
like, okay,
it's a
so
lot
when I got back to
expensive.
LA, I was like, no, like, I'm seeing the fashion industry. I've never like been in it, like, you know what I mean, other than like going on Maple Street and just buying fabric off the street.
Yeah.
So I started doing research of actual fabric mills and manufacturers, but I wasn't like finding too many manufacturers who had low MOQs. Most of them was like, oh, you have to make like 500 to 1,000 pieces per style, per color. And I was like, that's absolutely impossible for an indie designer starting out. So what I did was I started to just like walk downtown and knock on doors and ask people. So I would just knock on doors and say, hey, like, these are some designs I have. Do you know anybody around here who could make me a sample or produce like 20 pieces? And I think a lot of people are asleep on just like that old school like knock on door method, because that has allowed me to have a lot of relationships in the fashion industry just asking around. And
Yeah.
that's pretty much how I found my first pattern makers, markers, graders, and manufacturers. So uh I remember like doing a photo shoot on that first collection, and I got so much like great feedback. And looking back on it, that actually is the collection that I feel like I've one of the two collections that I've gotten the best feedback on.
Yeah.
My first collection. And so I was like, oh, okay, like I really want to make this a thing and become like a legit designer. I don't want this to be a hobby anymore. So I started to pursue to like just build up the brand.
Tell the audience what a MOQ is, because I think like you and I know, but those listening are learning. So, just so they can know
Yeah.
what we're talking about when they go down there, just like you.
Yeah. So MOQ is a minimum order quantity. So that is basically if you have any product and you go to like a manufacturer and you want to get it produced so that you can sell the product to your audience,
Hmm.
they have like a minimum requirement. So they'll say like, hey, like we can only produce this for you if you pay us for 500 pieces.
Hmm.
And that's really, really high when you're starting out, because you have to think the cost of one item times 500. So on average, like that's thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and to get the pattern, I mean, the pattern is the gold, right? Like I remember I've had some things produced, and the pattern is three, four, $500, right? So just getting the pattern and then having to produce it and the fabric and all of that is many steps. It's not for the weak, so you must really, really be a focused and strong person to go through the process of creating your own line, without
Yeah. I
it being
actually,
overseas or whatever.
yeah, because you just brought that up, $300 to $500. I think that's pretty expensive. I used to do consulting, and I would get that a lot from people saying that they would get quoted like $500. And I
Yes.
don't know if it's just I kind of know the ins and outs of the industry now, because, and I'll get to that also, but
Yeah.
I've worked corporate. So I actually was a product developer and designer for a lot of fashion companies that I don't talk too much about, but on average I spend $100 to $150 on patterns, and then when you get into revisions, I think it kind of like can be a fee of $50 to $100. But on average, I don't think I've ever paid more than $200 for a pattern.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, you
Yeah.
got to know who to ask. I think, especially if it's small production or like a one off or two off, I think someone who's a pattern maker, if they see you're not making a whole line, they may want to like maximize on that one pattern, that they
Mm-hmm.
want to make for you versus like if you had more stuff coming or they knew they were going to get more business from you, maybe the price would be subsidized.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great tip. So, y'all out there don't pay over $500 for a pattern.
Yeah, if someone's charging you, I've had somebody come to me and ask me that. They're like, "Hey, I got quoted like 1,000," and I'm like, "Yeah,
Nah.
they're trying to pay the rent. They're trying to pay
Yeah.
the rent."
Yeah.
Like that's unheard of.
Yeah. And so yeah, you working as an assistant or working in production, what was that like for you? I mean, that had to be better than Ross.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, after that time of me like graduating from Tuskegee, I worked a lot of jobs in the fashion industry. I
Hmm.
think I was trying to like really be confident. Is this really what I want to do? So I took on a lot of jobs like from working through creative agencies. So I've done like merchandising, I've been a showroom coordinator,
Yeah.
sample room coordinator, product developer, a technical designer doing tech packs. Like I've done it all, literally. Like any position you can name, I've probably worked it. um, and sorry, can you ask the question again?
Oh, no. You have a lot of jobs in corporate, which is getting
Hmm.
closer to being autonomous and being the entrepreneur that you should be, right?
Yeah.
But it must have been a good training for you to wear all the hats.
Oh, there we go. Okay, I caught it.
Yeah, like all the different things
So
that come into
yeah.
you running
So
your team. Yeah.
actually what happened was it was in 2018 and I was like, okay, I want to work for a fashion company. I was like,
Mhm,
I think I need some like I am a designer, but I felt like I needed some real experience in the industry.
mhm.
And I started applying for different jobs because at that time I reapplied. I went back and was like, oh, I'm gonna go to FITM now that I graduated from Tuskegee. Like now I can go to fashion school and get my degree.
Yeah.
But I remember like it was so expensive and I was like 14K short and I didn't come up with the money in time. So I was like, okay, God, like I thought you told me this was the route to go. And then I just remember hearing him confirm it for me, like, you don't have to go the route that everybody else is going to do what I've called you to do. And I was like, okay, I don't know what that looks like, but I'll trust you. Um, and so I was just like, I'm gonna just start printing my resume and going to companies and asking, can they hire me? And just seeing like if I can get hired. And I remember like going door to door to door, and everybody was like, no, 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 no. Because they would test me. They would like hand me a measuring tape and be like, okay, measure the HPS. Like, tell me this, tell me that. And I would have to go home and YouTube things because I'm like, I didn't go to fashion school. So they're trying to see if I really know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Um, and then I remember going to this one company and I kind of just like prayed about it on the way to the interview and I was like, okay, like Jesus, I need you to show up for me. Like I'm tired of like trying to apply for jobs. Like I need
Yeah.
you. Like I really, really need you. And I took Jesus with me to this interview. Like I pretended he was in the car with me on the ride there, opened the door, walked in, sat at the table. The lady comes in. I push the extra seat back and I'm like, have a seat. Like I'm telling Jesus, sit next to me. Cause I'm like, at
So
this
you
point, I'm like,
were
I don't
playing.
know what else to do. Like I'm not getting hired. And I remember the lady, like the interview was like literally 2 minutes. It was so short. And I was like, dang, like in my mind, I'm just thinking negatively. And I'm like, oh, she's already made up her mind and she's not going to hire me. And then she comes back and she's like, you know what? I'm going to give you a shot. And then she hires me. And I was like literally in tears. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is all it took. And on the first day, I remember like crying and just getting to my desk. And I was like, oh, like I really have my own space. Like I'm really a designer, like for a corporation.
Yeah.
Um, and I was hired as a sample room coordinator. So I would go downstairs, and it's like literally just a floor filled with sewers. Like there's like hundreds of machines down there, and they're
Mm-hmm.
just sewers like just on the machine. There's cutting tables, there's cutters, there's marking and grading over here. Like it's just hundreds of people just working like kind of like a factory.
Yeah.
And I started to really learn the ins and outs of design. I'd had no idea that it was so many compartments. Like I'm just thinking like, oh, you just design and poof, you just make something. But I started to learn like the actual technical side of fashion design. Like, and that's something that's super important. Learning the construction of how a garment is made and like how many stitches. And, I used to go down and like dye the fabric in the like hand dye it. Like I would be down there hand dyeing fabric. So it was stuff like
Yeah.
that kind of helped me.
I feel like everyone should have a little bit of experience like that. I did take a textile class in Chicago, and you learn how to sew and knit and then dye, just different textile, skills.
Hmm.
And I think you have such more more respect for the garment, because I know we're living in a fast fashion time, and we just go and
Hmm.
get it and wear it a few times and toss it or donate it. And it's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
And I mean, we don't want to go way, way back when it's just like literally you were trained to make your own clothes and make your
Hmm.
own patterns and go and get the fabric and make a dress, and you would have less but high quality
Right.
pieces,
Right. Right. Right.
and now
Yeah.
it's just about having like all this junk, and
Hmm.
so yeah, it definitely gives you like this material literacy, like when you see it in process. So I'm sure that was like all eye opening for you, and you learned a ton.
I did. And really, that was the first job that I started working at that I was working with manufacturers overseas. Like, that's totally different. So,
Yeah.
like, I was the one communicating with the Chinese factories, the factories in India, the factories in Istanbul, Turkey. And
Mhm.
having language barriers is like a totally another conversation for another day. But
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
I had to learn how to communicate with people that speak another language. And then shortly after, I actually got promoted to junior associate designer. So just kind of like moving up, and it really like helped me like understand on the back end and operation side of like how to run a fashion business as well.
Um, you seem super focused on this path. What's something that like outside of fashion that people don't know about you?
Um, Something outside, I would say this is like super random, but I really love Jesus, and I don't feel like I talk about it enough. But like my faith is really important to me.
Okay.
I think that I came to this realization like a few years ago, but like I don't think people realize that we are like on this earth for a specific purpose.
Hmm.
Um, like it's amazing to like wake up and like do what you want and have freedom and have fun and like all these things, but I really have recently recognized that like I was created to be here for a specific purpose.
Yes.
um and I try to like share that a lot because like my business would not be where it is or how it is, or wouldn't have got to the space that I am today without my faith. Like my faith has literally gotten me into rooms.
Mm.
And sometimes I have people like ask me questions on like, how did you do this? And how did you get on here? And I'm like, I don't have the answer for you because it wasn't me.
Yeah,
Like
it was
it
divine
wasn't me.
the way that it happened.
Right, right.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people don't understand, especially it is so tough. You need to be clear, right? And you need to, if you believe, you need to be aligned with that, with what you believe in your faith, so that, because you're going to need that extra help, you're going to need that extra support outside
Right.
of just everything that you can see. And I agree. Everyone always has like a little something, a gift given to them. And
Hmm.
if you're listening, if you get quiet enough, you'll definitely hear and feel what that gift is.
Right.
So I totally understand what you're saying. And even in the fashion industry is a very judgmental and kind of can be kind of a cutthroat industry where people are just about like who's the prettiest, who's the richest, who's the most popular, who's the it really teaches you to like judge and hyper judge and be hypercritical of each other, which is not exactly godlike, right? Like that's not what
Right.
being a Christian is about, right? Is all of this judgment, and fashion is highly judgmental. So, I think that's a great thing to speak on, and that it doesn't have to feel like you're getting, and we'll get, I want to hear about your reality experience too. Like you're always going to get voted off or always get rejected, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, coming from the corporate and finding out and applying to be on the show, I'd love to hear about that journey, and also like how does faith play into that?
Oh yeah, that's a very important part of the story. Yeah, so making the cut, what's interesting is a casting director actually reached out, and let me just show you like how just I just feel like everything is like so intertwined. When I was working at Amazon, one of the coworkers that I was telling you about that was also a fashion designer, her name's Jasmine. We
Okay.
became friends there, and we used to just like talk about like our business and what we want to achieve and where we want to go.
Yeah.
So fast forward to 2021, I believe. This was right after I got laid off from my job during COVID. She
Yeah.
asked me, did I want to share an office space with her? So she rented out a building and had an office space. And she was like, hey, like, if you want to move in and you need an office space, you can move in here with me and we just split the rent. And I was like, bet, like, I need a space. So let's do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So I move in, and she's like, hey, like this casting director reached out to me and asked me to apply for this show called Making the Cut. And I just thought it was so crazy because during COVID, we were all in the house, and I had just watched the season 1 on Amazon Prime. Because,
Hmm.
when we were in the house, it was like nothing to do but watch TV. And I actually don't watch a lot of TV at all, but, it was nothing else to do. And
Yeah.
she was like, did you see season 1?
Yeah.
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 She was like, did you see season 1? Like, it's so good. And I was like, it is so good. So like, I remember being on the phone with her, and like we were just making a joke, and we were like, yeah, like, well, it would be so cool if like we both got on the show and
Yeah.
then we pretended we didn't know each other. And I was like, this would be crazy if that happened. So she told me she applied, and then she was like, I think you should apply. And I was like, I don't really know about it. Like, and then she was like, yeah, like, I think you should apply. So I remember trying to apply, and I went home, worked on the video, filled out all the questions. It was like a million questions. I was like,
It's a lot. Yeah.
it was a lot. It was a
I've
lot.
watched some business reality shows, and I never get past the application because I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely don't have time to do
Right.
the video,
Right.
edit it, write all the stuff they want you to write.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's a long process.
And honestly, that's why a lot of people don't do it, because it can be a little bit intimidating,
Yeah. Yes.
And I remember because I tried out for Project Runway back in 2017 when I designed that first collection, and I only made
Yeah.
it to the first round and then got cut. So I was like, do I want to go back through this again? Like, I don't really know. So anyways, I apply. Well, I'm trying to apply. I recorded the video, it took like 6 hours, and it kept saying error, like couldn't upload the video. So every time it said error, it would literally wipe out all my answers and I would have to start over. And I was getting so frustrated. And I was like, you would think I would be smart enough to like copy and paste the answers so I wouldn't have to keep retyping it, but I wasn't.
Oh my
So
God.
I kept applying, and it was like the 4th time. And I was like, you know what? I'm over it. So I get to like my boyfriend's house, my ex-boyfriend at the time, and he's like, oh, try again. So I try at his house, and it's still saying error, it wouldn't upload. So then he's like, why don't you go to your office and like connect the Wi-Fi there, it's probably stronger, like try
Yeah.
again. So I get there, and then I submit it, and then it finally goes through. And what was crazy was the first time that I was getting ready to apply, it kept saying the application was closed. And I remember texting Jasmine, and I was like, hey, like, it's not open anymore. And she was like, yes, it is. And I was like, no, it's not. Like, I see it says application closed. She was like, no, it's not. It's open. So she was like, let me send you the link. And so what happened was she sent me the link, and it was a new link. So the first link that I had, the application was closed and they regenerated a new form. So that was the one that actually went through. So I was like, okay, I'll just like wait to hear, back or whatever. So fast forward like a week, I'm at work. At this time I had a 9 to 5 and I was working at a factory, another factory downtown. And I was also doing product development and production management at that factory. And I get a call, and then I see an email come through. And so I was like, let me call the number. So I call the number and they're like, hey, Ciara, like, we just want to let you know we're pushing you through and making the cut to the next season. And I was like, what? Like, so I'm like super excited. And then my boss, she's like, what's going on? Like, what's going on? And I'm like, oh, I just got the call. She's like, the call for what? And I'm like, oh, I forgot to tell you, I won't be here. I'm going to a show. Like, and she's like, well,
You do
what?
have
Like,
to quit, right? Like your job and
right. So I was like, I didn't want to quit,
yeah.
but because I was like, I don't know how long like, it might be a couple months. Like, I need a job when I come back if this don't work out. You know what I mean? But things happened so perfectly. Literally, the time that I ended up leaving, my boss shut down her company and moved to Texas. So
Okay.
it was like literally when I left to go film is when she moved and like moved the company to another state. So anyways, I called Jasmine and I'm like, hey, oh my God, I got the call. And then she's like quiet. And I was like, oh my gosh, she didn't get the call. So like in my mind, I'm just like automatically thinking she made it too and she didn't make it.
Yeah.
And so I go to the next round. I have a meeting with the Amazon producers. I have a meeting with the casting directors. And, it's a lengthy process. Like, it's like round 1, round 2, like you got to keep moving on. Like, it's not just like, you made it. It's like, you made it, but we got another meeting tomorrow. Like,
Yeah. And just so people know, like Project Runway, Heidi Klum and Tim Gunn, they went to Amazon to do basically another Project Runway called Making the Cut. And I think they got like a bigger bag and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, it's basically the same show with a different name. Uh,
right.
but you're going through all of these rounds, and like, how many rounds did you have to go through before you were like, okay, I'm on the show?
Okay. So it was, I can't remember if it was like 4. I feel like we just kept having meetings and I was like, okay, like what more do you guys want to know about me? Like,
Yeah.
I'm saying the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
either you go pick me or you're not.
Yeah.
So the moment that I knew, they told me they were sending me a camera and they were like, hey, like, we're going to move you to the next round, but we're sending you like a camera and we want you to record your whole life. Like, they were like, we want you to take this camera like
Yeah.
everywhere with you. Like, when I went to church, I took the camera. When I went to like dinner with friends, I took the camera. When I went to like a doctor's appointment, I took the camera. Like, I literally filmed everything. And I remember coming home and I like looked at the bag, the camera bag that it came in, and I think it had an F on it. Was it an F? It was an F. And so I was sitting there and I was like, okay, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And I was like, F is like the 6th letter in the alphabet. And so the way that my mind works, I'm like, okay, if there's 10 designers being picked, I made it to top 10.
Yeah.
Like, if they went down a list of names and issued the cameras to ship out, like, I was number 6.
Yeah.
And so I remember like telling my mom that, and she was like, no, like, it doesn't mean that. And I was like, nope, I'm believing that I made it. Like, I'm just believing that I made it. I'm number 6.
Yeah.
And I remember like being at work one day and I got a email from them and they were like, hey, we're going to set up a call with you to meet the producers again. The meeting's going to be at 1:00. So I told my boss, I was like, hey, I'm going to take my lunch break. But she didn't know that on my lunch break, I would go to my office and ship orders. So I was like, oh, I got to go get lunch.
Yeah.
But really, I wasn't. Yeah, I would go to my office and ship orders. So I went to my office and I was getting ready to get on the call and I had to use the restroom. So I like ran to the restroom to go use it really quickly. And as I'm walking in the bathroom, getting ready to go into a stall, here comes a lady walking out and it's Megan from season 1 of Making the Cut, and like we bump into each other.
Oh wow.
And I was like, Megan? And then she was like, hi, like, nice to meet you, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what are you doing here? And then she's like, oh, my office is right here. And I'm like, your office is right where? She's like, right there. And I'm like, I literally pass your door every day. Like, I had no idea her office was by my office.
Yeah. And
And
same show that you are about to be on.
yeah, and so I'm like, yeah, like it's so crazy. Like I'm applying for Making the Cut, and I was like, I actually have a meeting in 2 minutes, really quick. And she was like, good luck. If you need anything, let me know. So I was like, okay, like cool, like thank you. So I go back to my computer, and as soon as I like turn the camera on the Zoom, like they're like, congratulations, you made it. And I start crying because I was like, that wasn't a coincidence that I ran into Megan in the bathroom. Like
Yeah.
for me, like that was a confirmation from God, like telling me like, you've made it already. Like, what are the odds of me running into another contestant in the bathroom
Yeah.
right before the meeting when they tell me that I made it?
All of it being very kismet. Yeah, no, that was amazing. That is incredible. And then everything was clearing for you, like the job, because like job's a job. Like you can get a job, you can get another job, but like this is
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a very unique opportunity.
Right.
That was amazing. But yeah, I mean, what we see and what really happens is so different. Did you feel, like any pressure to like, were you treated well? Did you feel like they were trying to stir up stuff on the show, like, or do you really feel like this is going to prepare me, like sharpen my knife on becoming like a designer? Like I'm gonna, if I survive through this, I'll come out better.
Yeah, I mean, actually, prior to me, having the confirmation that I made it, I remember like being on a meeting, and they usually ask you about your personal life. And at that
Yeah.
time, I was dating someone, and he also is a designer, so he's a menswear designer. And I remember they were trying to like create this storyline, and it was kind of weird. I was like, they were like, oh, so like, does he ever get jealous of you with your achievements? And I was like, I've never even thought about that. Like, and so then like after that conversation, like I started to like think about it, and I was like, oh my gosh, like there's things I'm seeing now that I didn't see before.
Mhm.
So they did try to create like this storyline of like this girl who's a designer who has a boyfriend who's a designer and like all this kind of stuff. But I told them I didn't want that in the show. So
Mhm.
I actually didn't show any footage from the camera of like my relationship and things like that, just because, I think that that's very private.
I agree, and I think that was great of you to like pump the brakes. So I think some people feel like they have to be an open book on those shows. So
Right, right. And then when I got there, I just felt, I remember like arriving at the hotel, and I was like, I think we had like our first meeting with all the designers, and I was just like looking around the room, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, why am I here?
mhm.
Like I remember, it was like I have no idea why they selected me. And I think like this, what we call like FOMO, came in. Well, no, not FOMO. What is it called? It's
Imposter syndrome.
imposter syndrome. I keep saying FOMO. I was thinking about me because I missed homecoming at Tuskegee this year, and I had FOMO. I was like, that's stuck in the top of my mind. But yes, I had imposter syndrome, where I just felt like I'm not deserving of this opportunity. And I was like, where are these thoughts coming from? And like usually I have to like really just assess like, these thoughts, I got to get rid of these thoughts, because
Yeah,
this is nothing
not
from
real.
the
It's in
enemy,
your
like,
head. Yeah.
right. And I was like, if I wasn't, you know qualified, there's no way they would have went through hundreds and hundreds of applications and selected me. Like there's just no way.
Yeah. 10 is
um
like out of thousands.
right, there was hundreds of thousands of people who applied. And when I got there, I think it was more so like just seeing the talent in the room.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like there were a couple of designers, I was like, they're just so like just creative. And
Hmm.
it wasn't that I was like doubting my abilities, but it was more so of like, can I stand in the room and be confident and stand next to my work the way that they're standing next to their work? So
Yeah.
it was a little bit challenging for me. I did have some like mental challenges when it came to that.
Yeah.
Um, to be completely honest, like I struggled a lot. Like and being in front of a camera, I don't think people realize like you're not just like working, but you're trying to make sure that like your image is right, you're saying the right things, you're looking the right way, you're being
'Cause they'll
authentic. I
spin
don't
it.
want
They want drama. They want to spin it. They want to show.
right, right, right.
You're trying
And
to
I
become a
honestly
designer.
right, and I honestly did not want to give them drama. I was like, I really just want to be myself. And I'm, if you ask anybody that knows me, like, drama is not my life. Like, I don't like drama. Like, if I smell drama, I'm like, I gotta go.
Yes. Yes.
So it was hard for me because I was like, that's just not who I am. I don't like drama. So it was, yeah, it was a little bit challenging and just trying to like fit in. And I was one of the youngest there. Actually, I was the youngest between me and Raphael. We were both the same age, but we were the youngest in the room. So like dealing with that. And then also being black, I feel like there are some challenges there too.
Oh,
uh
always. I mean, you bring yourself with you and your experiences, and you check a bunch of boxes. You are black, you're a woman. I think, if you think about like Bad Girls Club or something, they're always trying to kind of get us to be an instigator or an aggressor or things like that. So,
yeah,
or just kind of poke that bear inside of you, and you just got to have like the strength to not kind of fall for
feed
it
into
because
it.
it's a
Yeah.
set up for sure. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but you are very poised and very professional, and you have a clear vision. And I think show or no show, right? Like post show, you're still doing your thing. It doesn't really matter. But um, I think that was such a good challenge. And like you speak about faith and God and things like that, like it's a zigzag. Like your path to wherever you're going, it's not linear. It's like you're gonna have highs and lows and everything in between. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm just now I want to go back and like watch it all over again because I want to watch you on the show. It's been a couple of, I think they only have had 4 seasons of it, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that experience. What did you take away from it, and how has it benefited like the next step in like your business?
Yeah, I think it really helped me do like the groundwork. I remember getting cut and I was like, it allowed me to see myself from a different perspective from the outside in instead of the inside in.
Hmm.
Just seeing myself on television and just, I feel like there were a lot of things that I didn't speak up about. I didn't say on the show. Um, and I think it's allowed me to just like be more confident in who I am and just like if people don't like it, they don't like it,
Hmm.
and I can't, this is my story, this is who I am, this is my life. I
Yeah.
don't have to fit into a box of what everybody wants me to be, and I don't have to follow culture. I don't have to follow what everybody else is doing to be cool, to be relative. Like I don't desire to do that at all. Um and I remember actually, like, now that you're talking about it, they came to film at the hotel one morning and they came to each person's room and they were like, oh, we just want to get some B-roll of you guys, like, in your morning routine.
Yes.
And they were like asking each person, like, okay, so like, what do you do in the morning? And I remember like one designer was like, I usually wake up and, I do yoga. And then like another girl was like, oh, I wake up and I do my beauty and like all these kind of things. And I remember they came to my room and I told them what I did. And I remember when the camera started rolling, they were like, well, we just want you to like come to the bathroom, like start pretending to like do your hair, do your makeup, and get ready for the day. And I was like, but that's not my routine in the morning. My routine
Yes.
when I wake up is I pray and read my Bible. Like I have to
Yes.
spiritually get ready for my day. And I remember there was one story producer there Her name was Toy, and she was like, well, let's like be authentic. Sierra's telling you this is what she does, so let's catch her doing what she does.
Yes.
And I was very grateful for that story producer because she stood up for me a lot.
Mm,
And when they would try to like navigate and control my story, she would step in and be like, but that's not true to who she is. So
yeah.
let's like make
So
sure we
she's
tell her
black.
story correct. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is also a story of like you have to have different types of people in the room at higher levels who are
Right.
decision makers who have
Right.
influence, and so I love that you had at least somewhat of an advocate on the show.
Right. Right. I had an advocate, and I think diversity in these spaces is so important. And I saw that firsthand being on Making the Cut. She was, I think, the only black story producer that I saw on set. Like,
Yeah,
and if it wasn't for her, like, even the like moments I had where I was like boo hoo crying. They're like, hey guys, like we need to take 20. Like Sierra needs to get herself together. Like give her a tissue, give her a moment. Like let her cry it out. And I
yeah.
appreciated her so much for that because I'm like, y'all not about to have me looking like a fool on national television.
Yeah, they wanna see people fall apart or lose it. So,
Yeah.
just black girl to black girl. I'm proud of you. You did that. Like, go sis, go and keep going. And I'm glad that she was there. And especially in these times, it is so important. Like, people are already like. You saw all that happened after George Floyd, and now it's like there's like already sick and tired of DEI. They did it for a good 4 years, and now they're like, "Oh,
Right.
it's done. I'm tired." And it's like, no, this is the beginning of the story. Like we're not
Mm-hmm.
done. That
Right.
was nothing compared to the work that needs to be done from like centuries of marginalization. But that was just really dope. I mean, I'm even more invested in shows, especially like that. I do love the fashion design shows when I see like a black designer. And there's a bunch of different shows too, and it's more and more you see people speaking up. And I remember Pierre Moss was a coach or judge on one of the shows that Tan France did, and I can't recall the name.
Oh, next in fashion.
Next in Fashion, and he like walked off the show because he was advocating for the streetwear designer, the black guy, to advance, and they had their favorites, and seemed like it was going to be the same old story, of like you only get so far, right?
I
And
do think that was a little dramatic though. I think
it was
it was a little dramatic.
no, I think he was bringing a drama, but I think he used the situation. He was like, "I'm Pure Moss. I'm in this situation where I can like make this a big deal," and
Mm-hmm.
I think people responded to it because we have to be loud about creating opportunity for ourselves, and we don't. As we can see, the pendulum swings either left or right, and we have to take it when it's present because people are already like kind of anti DEI. We're living
Yeah.
in that now in just 4 years, 4 or 5 years.
Right.
Um, but
They're only pro when they need to hit a quota.
correct,
You know what I mean? And
yeah,
I've most of the companies I've worked for as a designer, I'm the only black girl in there, literally, because they need to have a certain percentage of you know what I'm saying, POC, in there. So it's not really authentic. And that's another conversation for another day. Me contributing ideas but not getting the credit for it.
for
But
those
yeah,
ideas. No, what you're going through in your industry is duplicated in all industries, across industries, and I just think that you know we complained about them checking the box, but at least there was some kind of rule or law making people hire you and consider you. And even if you were a token, putting you in that room going forward, it's hard to know. It's fuzzy to see what happens without these rules, without these laws, without guardrails. Are they going to at least, are they even going to get a token? Is it just going to go back to, you know, the way
right,
the way that it was when we were just completely absent from being in the room?
right,
Um, and a lot of Black women want to be entrepreneurs, but a lot of them are forced into it due to years of trying to make it in the industry that wouldn't allow them to grow in their career. And then they're
right,
like, I know so much, and they've been stealing so many of my ideas. I'm about to start my own business, like what you did,
right.
are doing. So I would love to know, yeah, like what you're working on right now to keep that going. How are you growing, Ciara Chyanne, in this environment, post making the cut, post COVID, all of that?
Yeah, so I think I've recently, I just really have a desire to really like, I want a community. I want a community. And I think that's like super important for a brand
Yes.
is relationships. And I genuinely want to continue to grow my customer base with people who don't just love the product, but love what the brand stands for. Um, who are like-minded women who just get it. Like they just get, like they love fashion, but they just get it. And I want to start doing like more events in the process of growing Ciara Chyanne into a lifestyle brand, because my long-term goal is to have a lifestyle brand, expand my product line, make more handbags, make more accessories,
Yes.
finally launching like even my home candles. I've been working on that for like over a year and a half now.
Oh, do it.
Um,
Candle market. I love me a candle. There's candle snobs out there. Do it, girl.
mhm.
We love the
Yeah, I
candle.
haven't released it yet. I planned to release it last Christmas and never did.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't know if the timing's right. So really just like building up that customer base, having more events, just having like personal connections with my clients and customers. Um, and I want Ciara Chyanne to be a global brand. So I'm trying to reach other markets, not just the US market,
Yeah.
and you will see Ciara Chyanne very, very soon in retailers. I'll probably talk about that in the future.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, well, it never stops. It's a conversation that keeps going, and your vision is your vision. And based on what you've told me, you're someone who has a vision and realizes it, executes on it, and no matter where it takes you, and you're like nimble and agile. I think people don't talk about how you have to like be really flexible and be ready to like pivot when you hit
mm-hmm,
like a challenge, and I think you're
right.
like equipped for those challenges, right?
Mm-hmm, right.
How do you take care of yourself? Like, I don't know if after the show you needed some time, like how do you self-care, while you're doing this, because it's not for the weak.
Um, so for me, it's all around spiritually, mentally, physically. Yeah, I if my mind is not in a space able to give and receive, I cannot do anything.
Yeah.
Like a lot of mornings I actually have my phone on D&D until I'm ready to communicate with the world. And I know sometimes like my friends are like, that's so like da, 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 da. I'm like, it might be selfish, but trust me, if I'm not at the best Ciara I can be, I'm not able to give you my best. And I'm not
Right.
able, you know what I mean?
Yeah, fill your
Um,
cup so you could then fill up others. Or even, I mean, and Kanye's controversial, but he says that too. He says like, don't just get up in the morning, pick up your phone, because, and you probably have this, all creators have this, where those moments like in the middle of the night or in the morning, we have ideas, and you're
mhm.
imagining or you're creating things in your mind before you start, to scroll and stuff like that. So
Right. Yeah. And it can be very addictive. So honestly, I try. I mean, sometimes it happens, but I try not to pick up my phone. I actually charge it like literally in another room, so that I don't do that. And when the alarm goes off, I just get up. But lately, I've been like waking up around 5 a.m. and I usually like pray for 45 minutes. I meditate, say positive affirmations. I read my Bible. So I do like scriptures, devotions. I journal. I journal for at least 5 minutes. And then I usually read like a business book for like maybe 25 minutes in the morning just so I can get my mind going. And I listen to praise and worship music. And then I hit the gym. Working out, like taking care of your body is so important.
yeah,
But I think people forget about like the spiritual and mental. Like working out is great, eating fruits and vegetables is great, going to the spa, getting a massage,
that's
like that's
big here in
wonderful.
LA. Is like workout, eat right,
Yeah,
diet. It's a lot of that Ozempic, all of that. It's very like, body conscious, image conscious, but
yeah.
um and the woo is there, but I think people like it to be loose and vague, and I think you're really clear of like, I fool with Jesus, I'm Christian, like I spend time, I'm devotional, you listen to your music. And also, what is your, who's your favorite um gospel singer, and what is a business book that you recommend, like your favorite? I know that's a two-part question.
Okay, so I have a lot of business books, but I will say that every business person under the sun, if you're listening to my voice, should go buy this book right now, and it's called The 4 Hour Work Week.
Oh,
Have you
yeah.
read that?
I've read it. Yeah, it is
Okay.
life changing, and you read it again, and you get things later when you go back and reread it. It's an
Right.
old book, but it's valid.
Right. I would say that one, and probably the Power of Positive Thinking has helped me a lot.
Hmm.
And then gospel, that's really hard. I listen to old school gospel, but
That's okay.
lately I've actually been listening to a lot of Christian R&B music and Christian
Okay.
rap music, cuz I like love rap music. I like kind of grew up on rap.
Yeah.
So I feel like once I made that transition to like surrender my life to Christ, I was like, I'm not like, I can't completely give up rap. Like, I think it's the beat. I think I love, like, it's just very motivational to me.
It's
So
creative. All of our creation, particularly like Black people, like it's a chain, and it's hard. You can't break the link in the chain, right? So like
right.
hip hop and rap matters too in that process. But
Right.
yeah, share something you've been listening to that people can maybe step out of their zone, their normal day-to-day music, and listen to.
Yeah, so right now, he just dropped an album, I think, on Friday. His name is Stevie Rizzo.
Okay.
Or it might be Rizzo, but it's Rizzo, Stevie Rizzo.
Okay.
I listen to him. He does R&B. I'm like going through my playlist right now, so
Yeah, there's
um
things that people want to know about you. Like,
Sunday. Have you heard of Sunday?
how do you spell this person's
So
name?
it's Sondae. Sunday. His music is just so beautiful. It just like, I don't know, it's just something about his music. I'm just like, I feel like he should be mainstream. And it's actually pretty sad that like Christian artists are not mainstream, but like his music is just so good. Like I'm listening in the car and I'm like, it just doesn't make sense. Like his music should be everywhere around the world. But um who else? Cleo Soul. I love
Love,
her.
love Cleo Soul. It's very beautiful and chill.
Yes, I
I love.
love her album Heaven. I love
Yeah.
Heaven. What else? Oh my god, I have so much on here. Like rap, it would be like DKG Kai, and then yeah, I have a whole like girl. I can literally go, but
Yeah.
if I were to go old school, it would be like the Clark sisters. Like
Same.
Clark sisters. Like
Yeah. People
yeah,
either
I
like
listen to
people
the
like either like Kim Burrell or they like the Clark sisters. But like
right, right, right,
the Clark sisters are classic. I love it, and I think it's just a foundation. Like their sound, their creativity. Yeah, it is really really interesting. But it does make you. I had not gone to church and I don't know how long, but all of the best singers come out of the church, I think. And it
Mhm.
sets the foundation for everything else. So what you're saying is like more people should be listening to it. But it's really interesting is that most of our like a Whitney or an Aretha, like they're trained in devotion first before
Mhm.
they transition into secular music. So it
Right.
is interesting to know where things come from. And I'm very big on that too. Like know where stuff comes from. And maybe I'll listen to one of those your recommendations just because sometimes you do need to take a break from like I feel like people are battling and arguing a lot in music. Sometimes you just need a moment. You need a minute. I even listen to like sound baths sometimes or Tibetan bowls because I just need like a clear head in the morning. So
Mhm.
I totally respect that process. And it's very, it's a very mature process. You being young and most people are just getting up and they're scrolling and all of that, like you being resistant as well to just like going along with stuff, and you are like actively creating,
Hmm.
what it is you want to do and what you want to be. So I am totally, I find that so dope and amazing. So what's what's next? Like, what are you working on other than Candle, other than global domination? Uh, where can people find you and be in community with Ciara Chyanne?
Yeah, what's next? I'm working on some projects, which I hope I can announce very, very soon.
Okay.
And I'm really focused on hitting like my muse list, which like consists of Tracy Ellis Ross, Rihanna, Beyonce, Sarah Jakes Roberts, um, Savannah James. So I'm working on actually some stuff for Beyonce right now. So I'm praying
Yeah.
that she wears it and she loves it. That would be amazing. That's a dream of mine. And yeah, I'm just really going after everything I want this year and being super intentional. People can find me on socials. The brand is Ciara Chyanne, and it's spelled Ciarachyanne with an underscore. So that's across all socials. And then if people want to follow me on my personal socials on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Threads, all that, it's just designer Ciara.
I have two more questions for you. And thank you so much for being here. I've loved learning about you and your
Thank
story.
you.
To continue the conversation and be in community with you, because I'm like an Easter egg. I'm rooting for everybody black, particularly black women.
Period.
Period. Girls, okay. We need to have a good
Right.
2025 regardless of what's going on. We got to do.
Period.
But what you mentioned muses, whose style is just everything for you right now? Like red carpet, or like right now is like a lot going on with like the Wicked tour, and like who are you just loving as like killing it in your opinion?
It's just Tracy Ellis Ross all day. All
Okay.
day.
Yes.
Um, I'm
I,
actually like, oh my god, gagged the other day because I was at LA Fashion Week and I was upstairs at a
yes.
little pop up by the pool, and I had no idea Tracy Ellis Ross was downstairs. And then I get on Instagram and see someone post a video, and I'm like, I literally was right by that room and didn't know she was downstairs. And if I had met her or ran into her in the elevator, like I probably would have died. uh,
This is what I know about you. I think you're going to meet her. I think you're going to run into her. I don't know, call it whatever you want to call it, but I feel like I say stuff, and people who've met me and coworkers and everything are just like, Nicole, you are so psychic. Like you say stuff and it happens. I've been in two positions, two roles where both times like I've been encountered Tina Knowles, and
oh, she goes in my church.
yeah, you know what I mean? Or yeah, or like yeah, it's just like people you run into, you think about them and you run
Hmm.
into them. So I think you're definitely gonna have a run in with Tracy Ellis Ross. And I also love that she just does not care about like what you should wear at a certain age, especially as someone getting older. I just want to wear what I want to wear. I don't want to be told like, don't wear this, don't wear leather, don't wear a short skirt. Like I want to wear what I want to wear. And if you're
Hmm.
taking care of your body, mind, soul, I think you should be able to do that. Um, but I will say that I am reading La Roche's book,
How
and
is it?
it's good. I have it right here.
Awesome.
Signed it, and it was a magical experience meeting him. I had liked him for a really long time. He is from Chicago, so I go hard for people from Chicago.
Chi-town.
It's just like a cult almost, like such a weird club. And as soon as you meet someone, they're always like, "What side?" And I'm always like, "North side." North side is traditionally
Yeah.
white, so they're always like, "Oh, girl, get out of here."
Right, 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 right.
Everyone black in Chicago has family on the west side, on the south side, and it is community regardless of what side. And so
Yeah.
Law was really warm when I met him. He did a panel at Noya House with Kiki, Kiki Palmer, and
I was actually supposed to go and I missed it that night.
yeah,
My friends went.
yeah. No, it was really, really great. So that I think the community part, you're so right. Please keep telling your story. Please keep connecting. um, and letting people know who you are, what you are. Everyone, please go and support Ciara Chyanne, particularly now. It's not over. We need to keep the vibe of 2020 or whatever it was, 2021 going,
Yes.
and support, Black women, Black business, all of that. I'm in the middle of a thought process of like I want to decolonize, a little bit, and like if I can, don't take the easy route of like Amazon. If you could think about someone that you could support, go and support them. You've already
Right.
been supporting Lord Bezos and all of those people and Apple and all of them for years and years and years. So I can't wait till you announce what you're doing next. And thank you so much for being on You Have to Wear Something.
Thank you for having me. And my website is ciarachyanne.com, CIARACHYANNE. And if you sign up for the email list, I actually send out like all the new products and stuff like that in the sales and all that good stuff. So yeah. But thank you so much for having me. This was amazing. This conversation.
Yes, it
So
was.
thank you.
Yes, I'm so glad everyone learned about you, and we'll stay in touch. Have a great night.
Awesome.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.